Good day, everybody. Welcome back to Ed's Garage at Merton Hyundai. Today, the 2024 Elantra Preferred with Tech Package. So we're going to go over all the features of this vehicle and review it a little bit. Not going to take it for a drive, don't have time for that, but ultimately the drive hasn't changed much. It's more about the changes of the vehicle. So, of course, for 2024, they have done a facelift update. As you can see here, there is a lot of changes to the front of the vehicle. The wheels are different, the back is a little different, the interior is different. But yeah, let's get into it. So before I get into it though, just a quick note. I had a couple of questions about what's with the flower. This is a poppy, so in Canada we are coming into November 11th. That's our Remembrance Day, where we remember our veterans. We honor our veterans, and the poppy is representative of that remembrance. So it's kind of like Veterans Day in the United States. Up here in Canada, it's Remembrance Day. So for our international viewers, that's what that's all about. Anyway, so let's talk about the Elantra Preferred with Tech Package. So starting right at the front here, you can see we have a much different look on the front. I did have a couple questions on my last video on an Elantra Essential about these little lights down here. These are turn signals, they're not fog lights. So I'll flash the lights here so you can see what I'm talking about. That is just a turn signal, okay? We do have LED daytime running lights right here and LED headlights and high beams. They're a reflector style, but they're really, really good. I quite like the front end of this vehicle. I think the looks are actually quite nice. I think versus the previous years, they did a really good job to make it look a little bit cooler. Coming around to the side here, you can see we've got aluminum alloy wheels. This, I think, is a huge improvement over last year. The wheels last year were black, and I don't know, they just didn't work for me. Anyway, these are a 225/45 R17 Kumo tire wrapped around that aluminum alloy wheel. So these are the Kumo Majesty Solus tires. They're pretty good. They're all-season mud and snow rated tire. Up in the windshield, you can see we've got the forward-facing camera system there for the lane keep assistance, as well as pedestrian detection for the autonomous braking system. And coming down the side, we do, of course, have the blind spot monitor in the mirror. We have proximity entry with the little light that comes on in the back of the handle here at night, which is nice. So this is new as well. I didn't notice this the last time I did a video, but yeah, they actually changed this little panel here to make it look a little more interesting. And then they also changed the bumper quite a bit. So they brought this quite a bit higher here. You can see that sort of black plastic. It's hard to tell on a black car, but when you have a different color, this remains black. So I think the black Elantra, honestly, in my opinion, looks the best because that really stands out in the other colors of the Elantra. Now, one thing, of course, they didn't change is the smart trunk. So when you stand behind the vehicle for a few seconds with the key in your pocket, trunk opens up. That's a nice feature. Here you can see we've got the backup camera, and there is a button here if you do want to open up the trunk just by pressing the button. It says Elantra right here. You got a nice flat Hyundai badge. And then under the trunk lid, a very, very spacious trunk in this one. You do have the folding rear bench, but it's not 60/40 in this trim level. For that, you got to go to a higher level, but the bench does fold down, and that's a very wide opening there as well, which is nice if you need to use the pass-through. Underneath the floor, you can see we do have a spare tire on this trim level as well. Under the hood of the 2024 Elantra, you've got a 2-liter Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder engine mated to an IVT transmission. What's an IVT? Well, it's similar to a CVT in that it does use cone gears, but it's actually using a chain instead of a belt. It's got a very, very tight wrap on the chain, so very, very low ratio for gearing as well as a very high ratio for gearing. So good pickup off the line and actually really nice high gearing for highway speed, so that the engine doesn't have to spin very fast, and it keeps it nice and quiet. It is a very, very quiet vehicle. A lot of people don't even notice when it's running if they're sitting inside the car, so that's kind of neat. But underneath the hood here, you can see we got lots of room around the outside. You can see the structural adhesive right here. So Hyundai uses a lot of the structural adhesive, well over 400 feet on the Elantra. So that's significantly more than most companies. And of course, that increases your rigidity. So you mix that with the advanced high-strength steel construction, that again, Hyundai is one of the few companies that does that because they make their own steel. Well, every company uses advanced high-strength steel, but Hyundai uses a lot. So this one has over 50% advanced high-strength steel construction. Yeah, everything under here is really easily accessible. Your windshield washer fluid, your brake fluid. There's your accessory battery there. Easy access to the filter and fuses. And then you'll also notice we do actually have some insulation on the bottom of the hood here as well. Now, one thing to note with that IVT transmission, a lot of reviewers have commented that it's hard to even tell that it has it because they do have those sort of faux shift points in there. So it does feel like a traditional automatic in most circumstances. But when you do floor it, of course, you're going to see the RPMs go up a little bit, but it's still quite quiet, which is pretty nice. We're going to jump into the back of the Elantra now, and one of the best things about the Elantra is just the amount of interior volume. This is a very, very big compact sedan. It's still a compact sedan, but it's very, very spacious. As you can see, I've got the front seat where I can drive it very comfortably. I can easily bring the front seat back a bit, but right now I've got oodles of space in front of my knees here. And you'll also notice lots of space underneath the seat for my feet as well. And we've got a couple of USB ports down here, and they're backlit. So other companies, calling you out, Toyota, don't have backlit USB ports in a lot of their models, so they're really hard to find when it's dark. It's hard to get them, plugged in, and it's actually quite inconvenient. So nice backlit USB ports, and they are USB-C as well. As far as the rest of the back seat, there's not much to talk about in this trim level. I do have a grab handle here. I got an armrest here, of course, and of course, is it a cloth interior as well. There is nice solid seat backs though, so that's good to point out. So if you do have somebody bumping the seat, you're not going to notice that as much. Now, again, said earlier, Hyundai makes its own steel. They're a very vertically integrated company. Not a lot of people know this, but Hyundai is actually one of the few manufacturers that make their own seats. And that's important because if you look at the rigidity of the back seat and the rigidity of the front seats, it's actually quite strong. You can actually flex the seats on some other vehicles. You can kind of twist the back seats when you pull them down. Hyundais aren't like that. They're very, very rigid because they're using advanced high-strength steel construction inside the seats as well. Anyway, lots of space back here, but let's check out the most important part of the vehicle, and that's the front seat. Before I get into the vehicle, I'm going to show you. It does have remote start, of course. Now, you got the Hyundai badge key fob now, which is not my favorite, but does the job. So we'll go ahead and remote start the car. And one of the things I really like about the way Hyundai uses their remote start system is when you get into the vehicle, you don't actually need to start the car a second time. Watch what happens here. When I put my foot on the brake, it comes to life. So I didn't have to press the start button a second time. It's basically recognized that the key is in the car and it's ready to go. All right, so let's talk about, first off, the seats, and then we'll go over some of the features in the vehicle. So first off, the seat, very, very comfortable. I do have manual height adjustment on the driver's side. So for the power seat, you got to go to a higher trim level, but this one, manual seats in both the front seats. But they're pretty comfortable seats, fairly decent lateral support. I've got, of course, an armrest here that's a little bit cushioned, and an armrest in the center, which is also cushioned. I do have tilt and telescopic steering wheel, so I can really get comfortable in the position here. But as you can see, lots of leg room. I can even move the seat back further. There we go. And of course I can raise and lower the seat still. If I put the seat all the way down, so if you're a very tall person, I'm 6'2". As you can see, there's lots of space above my head, even though this vehicle has a sunroof. So that's kind of cool, especially if you're really, really tall. All right, so we're going to start from left, move our way to the center, and then talk about the screen. So first off, on the left-hand side here, you can see we've got our dimmer switch, we've got our traction stability control. Right above that, there is this little spot here. A lot of people ask what this is. It's not a button or a display. It's just a spot to stick something. So you could put a suction cup mount there for your phone, for instance, or something like that. It's not like steel. In some of our vehicles, you have a little steel panel here where you can put magnets. This doesn't have that. So if you're going to stick something there, it's got to be either with adhesive or a suction cup would be the best way to do it. All right, left turn signal stock. It does have automatic headlights. I always leave it on the full headlight on position so you have tail lights during the day. And what's nice is if you shut the car off and leave it in this setting, it will still shut off all the lights anyway. You do have automatic high beams as well. And of course, one touch turn signal, which will flash 3, 5, or 7 times depending on how you have that set up. On the right-hand side, it's just your typical windshield wiper washer stock. Nothing too fancy there. Turn down the climate control a little bit here. You do have all of the media controls on the left side of the steering wheel here. So you got your voice recognition button, which will either control the built-in system or the Apple Siri through CarPlay or Android Auto Assistant. You can use that for either one of those things. Got your volume, your answer button, which will also hang up. You got a customizable button here, which I always set to go to the home screen on the infotainment system. You have your next song, previous song, or next preset, previous preset, and then the mode button here will change where music's coming from, whether it's AM, FM, Sirius XM, or music from your cell phone or USB stick. On the right-hand side here, you got these two buttons which control everything in the center of this screen, which we'll go over in a minute. And then you have the cruise control buttons on the right-hand side here, so start cruise control and set speed. And then you also have resume and change what speed you've got it set to. Sorry, this is your resume and cancel here. So this will increase and decrease the speed that you're going. And then this one here is for the lane keep assistance. So that'll put a little steering wheel right there on the screen. And when that turns green, that means that the car can actually steer itself down the road. So one thing with Hyundai's lane keep assistance, you don't need to enable cruise control first. You can actually enable lane keep assistance and lane center, and it'll keep you in the center of your lane despite not having cruise control turned on. And that's kind of unusual in the industry. You do also have a fully heated steering wheel, so all the way around 360 is heated, which is awesome. Beautiful steering wheel as well, just the right size. It's got the nice grips up here, nice leather wrapped wheel. All right, let's talk about the center console a little bit before we get to the screen. So you got some storage underneath this one, nothing crazy. You got a couple of cup holders with an adapter here for a smaller cup. That kind of fits into that one. So this one is a little bit bigger than this one, and then if you need it to be a little bit smaller again, you can use this adapter and drop it in there. This one also raises the cup up as well, so as you can see, it kind of has a shallower floor. So that's what that is. You have a nice leather wrapped shifter here with a drive mode button. So drive modes are normal, sport, and smart. I'll get to that in a minute. And then you also have a camera button here. You can turn on the backup camera. While we're looking at the backup camera here, I'll show you. You got dynamic steering lines, of course. So when you turn the steering wheel, those lines move with the wheel, showing you where you're going to end up. And you also have the ability to look straight down over the bumper rather than behind the car. So that's awesome. Now, of course, this vehicle also has rear cross traffic alert. So if you're backing out of a parking space, not only is the backup camera going to come on, but you're also going to have cross traffic alert. So if there's a pedestrian or a car passing behind you, it's going to pick that up and warn you. Now, we'll get to more of some of the safety features in a bit. First, I want to just finish the rest of the interior features. So having a look in front of the shifter, you can see we got a little spot here for your phone. It's not a wireless charger in this trim level, but that would be in a higher trim as well. Above that, you've got another USB port. It's USB-C, and it is backlit. And then next to that is the only USB-A port left. And this, of course, is going to connect to the screen. So this one does, of course, have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It is only wired in these vehicles still, but that's where you would plug it in. If you do want to go with wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, but you don't want to spend the money to get, a different vehicle that has that equipped, or spend less money and get the lower trim of the Elantra, which has that equipped as well. I know it's weird. You can get little dongles that will basically take that USB port and then convert it to a wireless system. So they're not very expensive, like $50-$60 on Amazon. And then next to that, you have a 12-volt port. Now, furthermore, with that wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, a lot of people ask why it doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. The reason for that is this silly little button right here, this map button. So there was a bit of a disagreement between Hyundai, Google, and Apple as to what that button did. Now, Hyundai wanted to make it basically just go to the built-in navigation system. Obviously, Google and Apple were like, no, we want it to go to our map system. So that finally has been resolved. That disagreement has been resolved, and future Hyundais will have wireless CarPlay, wireless Android, even in the vehicles that have navigation. So that is coming. Whether or not that's going to be added with an update to current models, couldn't tell you. As of right now, though, It is just wired Apple CarPlay and wired Android Auto. All right, right above those ports is a rather nice automatic climate control system. So it is dual zone automatic climate control, and there's 3 levels of intensity. So if you don't want to have the fan air blasting on you, you can simply reduce the intensity by pressing the auto button again. So 3 different levels there. The other nice thing is it has automatic recirculation when you turn on the windshield washer fluid. So if you pull the washer stick, you can see it automatically recirculates, so you don't have to smell the washer fluid. It's a really nice little feature. And then right below here, you can see we have the heated seat buttons. Of course, it is 3 levels of heated seats, only in the front seats, though not in the rear seats, unfortunately, on this trim level. It also has auto defrost, so when it recognizes that the windshield is fogging up, the defrost will come on automatically. And then here's your heated steering wheel button as well. And then right above that is all of the hard buttons for the stereo. So you got map, nav, radio, media, volume control, next track, previous track, or next radio station, previous radio station. And then you have a customizable button here, which we generally will set up to access Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. So I'll do that now. Phone projection, there we go. And then a quick direct setup button right there as well. Skipping the screen for a moment, you can see we have a manually controllable mirror here. And then above that, we have our buttons for the calling for SOS or emergency assistance, and then calling for roadside assistance. We have, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment, we have buttons here for the map lights, the button for the sunroof, and the sunroof itself does have an additional opening here. So if you've got it retracting automatically, it'll stop here to stop that sort of buffeting noise, but if you press that button a second time, it'll open up a little bit wider. So that's kind of a nice feature that not a lot of people know about. Now, if you simply want the air to vent, you can press the button up, and then it'll just vent the air straight up. Pressing the button forwards again will close that sunroof, and then we have a manual shade to cover the sunroof as well. The side visors both slide out. They both have mirrors, and they both have lights right there. All right, so those 2 buttons up there, they're part of the BlueLink system. So BlueLink allows you to remotely access the vehicle's features from your cell phone. You can remote start, remote unlock, remote lock, find the car on a map. You can even customize how the vehicle remote starts. And this is something that not a lot of car companies give you the option to do. But for instance, you can remote start the car for a period of time with the climate control set up, a certain temperature, have the steering wheel heat come on, that sort of thing. You can even have it automatically turn on the defrost front and rear for you so that it has everything melted off if you got like a snowy weather or whatnot. And as far as I know, aside from Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, I don't know of any other companies that do that, especially for the length of time that Hyundai gives it to you for free. 3 years for free in Canada, you will have BlueLink. It's pretty awesome, and it's a very, very helpful feature. Anyway, let's talk about the screens now. So first off, I'm going to talk about the instrument cluster. So these 2 buttons here control the instrument cluster screen. And essentially what they do is the top button will kind of cycle between the icons along the top edge of the screen. As you can see, we're going from left to right. By the way, guys, there isn't this much glare normally. It's just because the screen currently has the plastic protector on it that it comes with from the factory. We leave that on for the customer to remove. But anyway, we're going to start at on this one here. So first one that we're looking at here is just our drive information or our vehicle information screen that just shows what's going on around the car at any given time, whether you're crossing over the lines, that sort of thing. If I use the little rocker switch right underneath that button, I can cycle through different submenus. In this vehicle or in this particular screen right now, there is no submenus. But if I press that top button again to jump over to the next screen, you can see we have our current trip information. If I drop down, we have our since refueling trip information. So we're going to reset that for the buyer. And then we have our since the last reset, so our total accumulated information. Now, ignore the liters per 100 kilometers. That obviously is inaccurate. This vehicle gets about 6.8 liters per 100K on average. However, most of our clients tend to do better than that. As a matter of fact, some doing as little as like 5 liters per 100K on the highway, which is phenomenal. This is a very, very fuel efficient vehicle, despite not being a hybrid. All right, so pressing that top button again brought us over to the compass. Now, if you're navigating with the built-in system, you'll actually see turn-by-turn directions here. So if I hit the voice recognition button, find the nearest Walmart.
Please say the line number.
1.
Would you like guidance?
Yes. All right, so there it goes. I'm going to say no to the BlueLink assist here. So BlueLink also assists in the navigation to find like traffic information, that sort of thing. So there we have our turn-by-turn directions, but now we also have our next turn and continuing turn-by-turn directions on the center screen as well, or a total trip distance and total time to get there, or what time it's going to expect to get there. All right, pressing that top button again takes us to the tire pressure monitor, which will show, of course, tire pressures on all four corners once we start driving. All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about is the center screen. This part of the video does drag on a bit, so if you're satisfied with everything that you've seen so far, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to learn more about this screen, stick around. This video is going to be a little bit longer because I'm going to go over absolutely everything. So this is, of course, a 10-inch non-polarized screen. As a matter of fact, both of them are. Don't mind the flicker there. That doesn't actually happen in real life. But the nice thing about non-polarization is that you don't have to worry about wearing polarized sunglasses. You'll still be able to see both screens quite readily and easily. But yeah, 10-inch displays for both the instrument cluster and the infotainment system, and it all kind of blends in right here. You can see there's no screen right here, but it does look like one long portion, which is really, really nice. They do have the little anti-glare hood above it, but honestly, when you peel off the little protective film, these screens really don't have a lot of glare. They are a matte finish, which helps immensely as well. Anyway, let's talk about the screen. So first off, we're going to go to the home screen here, and we're going to start here. So if I press the home button again, it does take us to this sort of thing, which starts up with the car every time you turn the car on. From here, you can quickly access your time settings. So there's the time settings. It's not daylight savings time anymore. And you can also access the map if you simply tap the map section. I'm going to cancel the route right away. And on the bottom left of the screen, there we go. On bottom left here, it takes you to the media information. So that's where we can quickly jump straight into the radio, for instance. By the way, this one does have HD radio. We'll talk about that in a minute. And if you have BlueLink set up, you would actually see the BlueLink weather up here. So you can actually go straight to BlueLink weather, which is kind of nice. But I can also just swipe to the left and bring up the rest of the home screen menu items. So we have map. So we're going to go to map first. I'll talk a little bit about this. So first off, you do have the option to have 2D map, top down, north up, or just vehicle facing forwards, or 3D map, which is the one that most people like. At night, this does change to a black mode, which is awesome. And then navigation menu, this is where you can type in addresses manually, or you can just find nearby points of interest, previous destinations, etc. Pretty straightforward, just like any other, like TomTom GPS or something like that. You also have the ability to put in your home, work, and then 3 favorites, and then there's a whole address book here, saved places that you can do as well. Now, one thing I will point out, you got a little menu button here. Anytime you see this little burger menu, that means you'll also have the ability to open up the user manual and take you directly to the page that talks about the thing that you're looking at from where you just started. So here it says all menus. So if I scan this, it'll take us to the user manual, all menus page, which is awesome. All right, so phone, of course, is your phone setting. It's pretty straightforward. It's just where you see all your contacts and whatnot. Phone projection, this will be replaced with an Apple CarPlay or Android Auto icon when you have your phone connected. Voice memo allows you to record your voice and then play it back at a later date. Climate basically just shows you what's happening with your climate control system. So you have your temperatures on either side, so you can hear the fans are starting to speed up here. We're going to go ahead and put that back to a reasonable temperature. So now this is kind of nice. So previous generation of the Elantra, you couldn't actually change anything in here. It would just show you what it was doing, and you had to actually control the climate simply from down here. Now you can actually control the climate from this screen. So kind of nice. So not only can you see what's going on, but you can also control it here as well. And then on the right-hand side, you got some quick climate settings as well. So there's your auto dehumidify and defog, and then your activate, recirculate on windshield washer fluid use. And again, there's your little menu with the user manual on web thing. So that's kind of cool. You have valet mode. So once BlueLink is enabled, valet mode will basically restrict the vehicle's abilities and functionality and your privacy information, stuff like that. So that's cool. You have quiet mode here, which will limit the volume to the front speakers and shut off the rear speakers if you got kids sleeping in the back. Here's the HD radio data. So this is kind of awesome. So you've got traffic information. So it'll actually show you where, there's traffic problems in your area. Doppler radar. Currently, there's nothing received, but what you'll see sometimes is a map that shows where it's raining. And then fuel prices. This is one of the best parts. You can actually see the cost of fuel in your area. So if you're looking for cheap fuel, for instance, right here at this Esso, it's $1.56 per liter. We are in Canada right now. Okay. So if I hit go, it shows that spot on the map, and then I can set that as the destination and just navigate to it. How awesome is that? All right, so that's the HD radio options, and of course you do get a slightly better quality signal in the radio when you've got HD radio turned on. You also have SoundHound up here, so that's another nice feature. On the left here, you can put stations from FM, AM, and Sirius XM all in the same list. So if you want to add the station, just hit Add Station. Pretty straightforward. And then you have media, which of course gives you the option to choose the source of media. Now this vehicle is equipped with Sounds of Nature, which they've actually added a few extra ones to. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Sounds of Nature. We're going to go ahead and just turn that down. All right. And then the setup, of course, takes us to the setup. We're going to get to that in a moment. BlueLink, you can't really use it unless the vehicle's purchased, so can't really show you that right now. But you have a calendar, which you can link to your Google Calendar. I believe you can also link it to other calendars as well, but I've done it with your Gmail calendar. I've linked it to my Gmail or Google Calendar, and it works great. Weather shows you your forecast for today as well as for the next few days. Vehicle diagnostics are kind of cool, so you can actually read, engine codes and stuff like that if necessary. You have your maintenance reminder and, of course, BlueLink settings. Here's the manual for the whole car, and the notifications is also part of BlueLink as well. So, all right, let's go to the setup screen. So in vehicle setup, here's where you can actually customize the vehicle to your likes and dislikes, however you want to set things up. So for instance, I'm going to start at the top of the driver assistance page here, which is the speed limit warnings. You can actually have a speed limit warning limit the maximum speed that the vehicle can go. Obviously, I don't recommend that, but you can offset it a bit. So if you've got maybe a teenage driver that you don't want to have them going over a certain speed, you can actually limit the maximum speed, which is kind of cool. The speed limit warning is basically just the speed limit sign turning red, and that's all it is. And you can just shut the whole thing off as well. Warning method for the driver assistance. Obviously, you have the beeping, but it also will activate steering wheel vibration. So this is like if you drift over a line, or if you have somebody in your blind spot and you turn the turn signal on, that sort of thing. So you got lane safety audible warning, so that's cool. Drive safety priority, so it lowers all the audio volumes when the driving safety system sounds a warning. So if you're listening to music and you have a car in your blind spot, or you're backing out of a parking space and the rear cross traffic alert comes on or whatever, it will lower the music volume. You can also set it to lower music volume when you put the vehicle into reverse. So that's what that setting is there. All right, next thing down, leading vehicle departure alert. So when you're at a stoplight and the car in front of you goes, if you don't go right away, the car will actually give you a little prompt saying you can go. The car in front of you is gone. So it saves you from being honked at. Under the drive safety, you have forward safety, so it provides warning and vehicle control when a risk of forward collision is detected. Of course, we're definitely going to want to keep that on. And we also have forward collision alert, which happens before the assist. So first it's going to warn you, and then if you don't do anything, then it's going to slam on the brakes. You have lane keep assistance and lane safety. So this automatically assists with steering to prevent the vehicle from leaving the lane. So that's at a higher speed. So earlier I mentioned this button here. You can kind of turn that on and it's lane centering. The lane safety or lane keep assist, basically it'll bounce off the lines. You have blind spot safety, so provides warning when risk of collision is detected and provides vehicle control when departing a parallel spot. So when you're trying to pull out of a parking spot, if there's a car coming, it's actually going to hit the brakes to stop you inadvertently crashing into that car. A friend of mine recently got into an accident where somebody pulled out of a parallel parking spot and clipped the side of his vehicle. Exit safety provides a warning when provides a warning when an approaching vehicle is detected in the vehicle's blind spot. So it will also warn you before you open up the doors if there's a car coming down the road, if you've parallel parked. Parking safety. So rear cross traffic safety provides warning and vehicle control when a risk of rear cross-traffic collision is detected. So that's awesome. So that means when you're backing out of a parking space, if there's a car coming from the side or a pedestrian, it will hit the brakes to avoid collision. So really nice. Now in cluster settings, we have the illumination, which I showed you earlier just from that button. You can also change the theme. So earlier I mentioned I would get back to the drive mode here. So when you press the drive mode button, you'll notice that the theme actually changes as well. The background changes in the screen here. So normal is normal. Sport will tighten up the steering wheel and give you a little bit more low end kick. Smart will put you into mostly eco mode and adjust accordingly based on your driving. So if you're driving more dynamically, it'll put it into a sport mode automatically. So the cluster theme, you can actually choose a different theme altogether. Like here's Cube, or you can just keep it linked to whatever drive mode you happen to be in, or you can actually choose one of those 3 other options. So the reset fuel economy, just when the vehicle's started or after it's refueled, or just whenever you want. That's what that is. You can change the content that comes up on the instrument cluster. So here's the wiper lights display. That means when you turn on the wipers, it just shows you in the instrument cluster what setting you're on. Icy road warning, when the temperature is 4 degrees or lower, it'll warn you. And then we have a welcome sound here as well when you turn the car on or off. All right, here's some of the climate settings we saw earlier. We're gonna skip that. We got lights. This vehicle is equipped with ambient lighting. So let's crank that. We're gonna change that color to something custom. Of course, I have no idea what color the owner wants, but we'll put it on kind of a purpley color for now, and we'll show the customer how to set that. Check this out. You can see the light right across the dashboard here, and there's actually a few other places that it comes out. For instance, down here, it'll emit a light as well. So really nice ambient lighting. And of course, you can also link that to the drive mode if you want. We won't dim that in the dark either. All right, so you got your one-touch turn signal, 3, 5, 7 flashes. You got your welcome light, so that's the light that comes on in the door handle. Oops, hitting the buttons. That's the light that comes in the door handle, not the mirror, so this image is incorrect. You also have headlight delay and high beam assist, which I talked about earlier as well on the stock. Here's where you can enable and disable your smart trunk and your remote window control. So your remote window control means that if you hold the unlock button on your remote, it'll roll the windows down. You won't be able to roll them back up unless you get into the car, though. Keep that in mind. You have a rear occupant alert. So basically what that means is this vehicle will remember if the rear doors were open, so that when you shut the car off, it will remind you to check the rear seat, make sure you don't forget anything. And then you'll, of course, have your service interval reminder here and your oil change reminder as well. So that's pretty much everything in vehicle settings. Navigation settings is I usually just kind of leave this. I will add vehicle speed, though, so that it shows you not only the speed limit, but the speed on the map that you're going as well, which is kind of cool. And I don't think there's really anything else in here that's super important to talk about. Most people just kind of keep this stuff default. Yeah, we're just going to leave that. Under sound, we have our speed-dependent volume control, so that will actually adjust the volume level the faster you go. And then we have startup volume limit, so you don't freak yourself out when you start the car. You got where the audio is coming from. You got your bass, mid-range, treble. You can change guidance volumes, radio noise levels, so you can actually have noise reduction. You have driver assistance volumes, which we did look at earlier, but there's some of the settings there for that. And then, of course, you can change the volumes of Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. Device connections, where you would connect a phone. User profile. I didn't actually mention user profiles at all, but this vehicle does have the ability to have multiple user profiles. So if you have 2 drivers of the vehicle, for instance, let's say you have, your temperature set to 22 degrees, your Celsius, your instrument cluster brightness, your presets on the radio, your ambient lighting color. All of those things are remembered with your profile. So when you start the car, it'll ask you who's driving. You choose who's driving, and it'll remember all of the stuff that you chose on your profile the last time. Also, if you remote start the car with Blue Link, if you're the main driver, main owner, it'll automatically load your profile. So when you get in the car, it just comes up, your profile's loaded already. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then we got voice recognition settings, which we'll ignore for now. That's basically just things that you can say to the car, basically. You got your screen layout. So in here, we already went over the instrument cluster, but you've got they call it a screensaver. It's not really a screensaver, but you have the ability to have a clock on when you shut the screen off. So if I hold this button down, it turns the screen off and just puts a clock now. If I press and release that button, it turns off and on the radio. You also have split screen settings. So in this vehicle, for instance, if I'm in the map and then I go to this little button here, I can see multiple things on the right. So you can customize that. So if I go back to setup and then display, so a split screen, basically this is the different things that we can enable and disable on the right hand little mini screen. So that's what that is. By the way, if you see this little magnifying glass, if you're searching for a setting, you can actually just search for it right there. You can type out the thing you're looking for. Under display, you can change the brightness of the display here. You can also change the blue light filter. So we're going to enable blue light. So we're going to put it on level 5. So blue light filter essentially at or whenever it gets dark out and wants to dim all the displays, it'll also filter out the blue light in both displays as well. Super cool. You have the button settings here, so that's your customizable buttons. We're going to leave that for now. Blue link settings, which just shows you your modem status. And then under general here, you can see we have our update ability. So if we want, we can update this the screen firmware simply by getting it on a USB stick. It's free updates for life. And you just plug it into the USB port down there, and then you can start the update. Here's also where you can check your storage level, get your user manual again. You can change your date and time settings from here as well, but it does set the time automatically. What it won't do is the daylight savings time automatically. So that is something you need to adjust manually. Change your language, your keyboard type, your units. So if you go down to United States, or if you're in the United States, you come up to Canada, here's where you can change your kilometers to miles, miles to kilometers, etc. You got some media options in here, so turn off the radio when you shut the car off, continue to play the music when you shut the car off, that sort of thing, display media change notifications, and you can do a full system reset here as well. If you're selling the car, that's how you would do that. And that's it. I think that's absolutely everything on this car. So for the money, the Elantra Preferred Tech is a phenomenal deal. You can get a lot of features for a very reasonable price. And in the market right now, there's not really a lot of other cars priced the same way as this that include this level of features with a little bit of extra luxury, like the 3 levels of automatic climate control, the Blue Link system for 3 years, the ambient lighting, the full heated steering wheel. A lot of companies only give you the grips instead of the whole thing. Features like the dual 10-inch screens, instrument cluster, and infotainment system. There is a lot to love about the Elantra. So I hope this video helped you out make a decision. I hope this video helped you out if you already have the vehicle and you're trying to figure something out. And if it did, either way, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Share it with your friends and family if they're looking at an Elantra as well. And comment below if you have any suggestions for future videos, or if you have any suggestions for future content. I'd be happy to hear your suggestions. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day. Till next time.